to this racing game tutorial. In this instructable video, we're going to complete our track. So far, we have made a car, made a track, programmed our car to move, and programmed our car to stay on the track. Like any racing game though, we're going to need a lap counter and a timer. The time and laps blocks are not provided. In this case, we need to go to the data script option and add variables. As you can see, I have already added a time block and laps block and a lap counter. However, we won't be using the lap counter. We're going to add the set time block to our when green flag is clicked block. If we set the time to 0, this means that every time the green flag is clicked or the game is restarted, the timer goes back to 0. Now we're going to set the time so that it changes as the game is played. The game doesn't start until the up arrow is pressed. So, when the up arrow is pressed, we will add the block to change time by 1. This means that the time will go up by 1s. However, we want it to specifically go up by 1 every 1 second. So, we will add the block that asks it to wait 1 second before changing the time. Then, we will put this into a forever loop so that the time continually increases while the game is progressing. Now we can add the lap counter. In the data section, we will add it to the code by setting it to 0 when the green flag is clicked, just like the timer. Now we need to add the coding to increase the lap counter. This is a little bit more difficult. There are a few ways to make it work successfully, but it took me a few tries to find one that worked. First, we start it only when the up arrow is pressed. Then, we wanted to repeatedly count laps as many times as we need. In this case, I have a long and somewhat difficult track, so we will set the repeat to only 3. We want to add the block that changes the laps number by 1 each time, but we don't want the number of laps to change until a car crosses the finish line. Or, in this case, the lap won't change until a sprite touches the color black on the background. Out, we see that as long as the car is touching the black, the lap count increases. We don't want this either, so there's a simple fix. We're going to add the code that asks the lap counter not to change until a car stops touching the color black. Test, we see that rearranging the order of our code can often fix the problem. At this point in the process, I was still changing a lot of my work. I made a game that was too hard for me, so this requires a lot of shifting the track and changing the size of the car. I got it to a place where it was still challenging and not too easy, but in some ways, this takes more time than the coding itself. Be prepared to change your work in order to make it work. There's nothing wrong with that. In our next and final video, we're going to go over how to end the game for the player, and then our game will be complete. Please watch part 5 of this instructable series to see how it all comes together.